We are excited to share that we will be hearing from two presenters, our MTT Joseph, as well as Miss Lilian who will be sharing from their own practice and experience using Gen AI. Miss Lilian, please.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Lilian from Pasir Ris Crest Secondary School, and I'm here to share with you my reflections when using AIEd tools for the teaching of biology. Next slide, please. So my adventures with AI tools started in 2023 when ChatGPT was increasingly popular. So I thought probably the students may be using the tool without us realizing. So why don't I create some learning opportunities for them to learn to use the tool meaningfully as they pick up digital literacy skills on top of the other skills that we are trying to teach them in science lessons. I did not explore the use of AI alone, all right, and I had the guidance from biology MTT, Ming Ling, to help me along the way. Next slide, please. AI tools offer numerous benefits for teaching and learning. For students, AI can tailor learning experiences to individual learning needs and learning styles, providing customized content, pace, and support. AI-powered tools like chatbots also offer assistance and answer questions anytime, addressing learning gaps and providing immediate feedback. For us teachers, AI automated tasks and provides valuable data about student performance, allowing us to identify learning gaps and adjust our teaching strategies accordingly. So all these sound very exciting, right? Next slide, please. So emerging AI capabilities present exciting new possibilities for teaching and learning, but they also come with potential risks that may have longer-term impact on the students' learning outcomes. Therefore, the integration of AI tools in our lessons must be fit for purpose and grounded in sound pedagogical intent. Next slide, please. So without intentional integration, there is a risk for the students becoming over-reliant on AI since they can generate outputs very quickly. We may also potentially weaken essential cognitive skills such as critical thinking and problem-solving skills if we did not provide opportunities for students to critique and just accept the outputs directly. Also, it requires a substantial amount of time and effort to plan a lesson with AI integrated. Hence, it's also important to ask ourselves, if the AI tool is used appropriately to enhance the learning process, will the students be learning and developing the same skill set if the activities were conducted without the AI tool? Next slide. May I share an example with you? So last year, I got this learning activity for my Sec 3 Pure Bio students where they use ChatGPT as a research platform. They were presented with medical case files and they used ChatGPT for research, and they were tasked to cross-reference the outputs from ChatGPT with other online sources before they present their findings about the different diseases related to the digestive system in their posters. Through this activity, the students had the opportunity to be self-directed in quickly identifying and conducting research to fill their knowledge gaps. At the same time, with the cross-references activity involved, they also learned the need to verify information that they obtain online. Next slide, please. The survey results show that generally, all right, there are increased interest in the subject, the students enjoy the learning activity, and they also feel pretty competent after working on the learning activity. Next slide. The positive ratings given in the survey questions from the students corresponds to the observations that we made in the students' answers and performance for the subsequent weighted assessment. So it shows that ChatGPT can be an interactive tool that supports the inquiry process, facilitating greater curiosity and promote student engagement. However, while parents have given consent for their child or their children to use ChatGPT for this particular learning activity, some do share their reservations about their children using the tool for learning due to the lack of teacher monitoring of the chat conversations between the students and the AI tool. Next slide, please. Hence, with Sally's available, I shifted to using this tool for role-play learning instead. Sally's allow us to set the context for the learning activity. For this lesson that you are looking at on the slide, the chatbot role-played as an alcoholic who is receiving support to treat his alcohol addiction, and the students were tasked to interview this simulated character to find out the social implications of excessive alcohol consumption. This is aligned to the biology syllabus. Celis allow us to set guiding principles for its responses in the settings. So we can remind Celis to answer thoughtfully, encourage dialogue, and provide suggested questions for students to be focused on the topic. Next slide. Some of us might have tried using Celis before, and we will realize that this tool allows us to upload reference materials as knowledge bases so that we can customize the chatbot for curriculum alignment and scope their responses more accurately. Next slide. The benefits of using the chatbot for role-play learning includes allowing safe exploration of topics without real-world risks, interactive learning, and empathy development. Next slide. Using Celis also aligns with the principles guided by the AIEd ethics framework. While students and teachers have the autonomy in key decisions during the AI-assisted learning, parents are also more assured when the children are using Celis as compared to other commercial tools that lack teacher oversight on student interaction with the chatbot. The tool is also designed to be inclusive, and the students' interests, privacy, and well-being are protected. The provision of the knowledge bases ensure that the outputs are accurate and applied within the intended purpose and context of use. Next slide. However, I would like to use this opportunity to emphasize that while we are using an AI tool on a relatively same platform like SLS, it's still important for the teachers to remain in the loop to guide students learning with AI, teaching AI literacy skills, and ensure ethical use of AI. Let me share an example with you in the next slide. What you see here is a chat log of a student interacting with the Celis chatbot role-playing as the alcoholic receiving treatment. We need to maintain close supervision over the AI tool use, as students are allowed to interact with the tool directly without direct teacher mediation. As you see, my student digressed from the task and started to become cheeky. So with the benefit of being able to generate the chat history of the conversation that each student has with the chatbot, I can pick up these teachable moments where students stray away from the task at hand and address the role of the chatbot as a learning tool with the students. Slide, please. So while students are having fun and there's increased engagement, especially when they receive the immediate responses from the chatbot, it's important for us to emphasize the role of the chatbot in supporting learning and not substitute learning. In the design of our learning activities, let's try to encourage the students to evaluate the responses that they receive and consult other sources like textbooks or the teachers, and emphasize that the tool is there to help them with their learning and not to help them think and generate answers for them. Next slide. Yeah, also some of my other learning points from my first attempt with my students with Celis. So I learned that it's important to set the ideal interaction limit for students for them to have a focused discussion with Celis. Sometimes we think that by allowing a larger interaction limit, that will allow the students to ask more questions, but that also provide opportunities for students to stray away from the intended learning outcome. Also, we need to set some ground rules for the students when they interact with the chatbot, reminding them to be specific and keep their conversations professional and academic. Next slide, please. After seizing the teachable moments that I have in my previous learning activity, I tried to use Celis the second time with the same group of students. Next slide. And I do see improvements, okay, in the students' interactions with Celis moving forward after addressing the importance of being respectful in their online interactions and remaining focused on the tasks assigned. So you see now that with the emphasis on respectful behavior online, the student even remember to say thank you after interviewing Celis, the simulated character. So let's not forget to give the positive affirmations that the students deserve when they show improvement in their interaction. Next slide, please. So here are some feedback from the students after they have interacted with Celis. So like some of them shared, they find that it was very engaging. They felt that they gained meaningful learning points and they enjoy the interactive learning activity. Next slide, please. When they are asked how the use of Celis have changed their questioning habits compared to asking teachers in class, they shared that they learned to be more specific with the questions due to the message limits, and they become more comfortable asking questions. However, every tool has their limitations, So they also do share that studies can provide overly technical answers compared to teacher explanation. And sometimes they have to rephrase their questions because the tool occasionally misunderstand their question. But all in all, when I use Celis for role playing, one of my objectives was to encourage the question asking habit. And I think that secondary objective that I have on top of the content related LOs is met. Next slide, please. Learning to work with AI responsibly while acknowledging both the excitement and the need to be careful in the use of the tools is an ongoing process. When we put students at the center of what we do and we apply principles to ensure that AI is used in a safe and responsible and fit for purpose manner, I don't think we'll go wrong. Okay. I've come to the end of my sharing. I thank you for your attention and I'll now pass the time to MTT Joseph. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. All right. Okay, thanks. All right, thank you so much to Angeline as well as the very rich sharing that we have heard about the actual use in school, all right, by Lilian. So I want to actually build upon some of the points that Lilian has brought up because we want to understand about the T and L in the use of AI, but bearing in mind that I think a lot of times we need to be very mindful about some of the limitations, but more importantly, some of the possible pitfalls that the use of AI might land ourselves to. Okay, so I just want to perhaps just add on to what they have said. Okay, so I think before we talk about Gen AI in the classroom, apologies for the typo, I think we need to reflect about how we are using it as a teacher as well. So I believe most of you here are minimally casual user of AI, if not maybe even expert user. So let's think about it in the student-facing aspect first. I will come to the teacher-facing aspect first. I will come to the student-facing aspect in a little while. I think when we are teachers, we need to ask ourselves when we use Gen AI. All right. By the way, the image here is generated by Canva. We always want to perhaps train the AI or perhaps a knowledge base the AI that we use, regardless of whether it's SLS or external platform. So we are very, very excited. The teachers are very, very excited that we want to use AI, to create resources, to generate powerful lesson packages, or perhaps to train it to give students feedback. But a lot of times we need to be very, very careful about what we use or what we give AI as the additional augmented data. Some of these data might not be very, very suitable to be pumped into the AI database because when you pour in 4 pails of water, all right, imagine them being your data, your own personal localized data. It is very difficult subsequently for you to pull out the same 4 pails of water. In fact, it will be impossible. Even if Gemini or ChatGPT would like to help you, all right, they will not be able to do so because the data that you pump in, that your knowledge base or RAG into the platform will be lost in the sea, all right, and be permanently part of the database out there. So we need to be very, very careful, especially when it comes to important or maybe a bit more sensitive MOE curriculum details. So I will advise all of you, all right, if you are using off-the-shelf kind of AI platform, do check that, they are usually those public-facing ones, which means that if the public can access them, then it should be quite okay for us to additionally train the data, all right, in the AI platform. If you are not sure, I would say perhaps you might want to use, all right, some of the government ones like AI bot or the other one that I believe many of you will be familiar with, PairCheck. Okay, so we need to be very careful about the use of AI. Okay, and also what we put into some of these AI chatbots or platforms. Okay, so I want to actually build on what Lilian has talked about when it comes to actual TNL considerations and maybe making some reference, okay, to what the earlier part on the AI ethics, okay, and some of the TLL thinking that we need to have. So where is the teacher in the loop? Okay, so I think I want to pull out three examples. Okay, so I'm going to use the pedagogical considerations, all right, with reference to KAT as a frame. Okay, so I'm going to start off with personalization. So all of us know that when you deploy learning assistant or SLS with the students, all right, you are technically practicing personalization because each student will have their very own unique experience using the learning assistant. Okay, and actually, do you realize that along the way, all right, the students are getting a differentiated experience because it will be shaped by what kind of questions or the readiness of the students based on their prompting level, okay? And the AI or the learning assistants will respond accordingly. And in many ways, you can even see learning assistant as a form of scaffolding, okay? Because the AI would be able to customize to the learning gaps if the students are able to prompt the learning assistant appropriately and on task. Okay, so technically speaking, if you are using learning assistant, personalization, differentiation, and scaffolding will be deployed. But where is the teacher? Where is the teacher in the loop? First and foremost, before you deploy the learning assistants, you would already have gone through, like what Lilian has done, okay, the prompt engineering behind it. So Lilian, what has Lilian done was she didn't really like the pre-populated recipe. So she used it, she replaced it with her own. And that is where where Lilian practices or put in the teacher professional judgment to decide that I want the learning assistant to interact with the students in a certain way with certain knowledge bases so that hopefully it will yield the maximum outcome when the learning assistant is interacting with my students. Okay, so subsequent to that, I think more important to that is that the chat log afterwards, just like what Lilian alluded to, becomes a very, very important point of monitoring. Not just for us to monitor the students' interaction and their learning gaps based on that. Okay, but more importantly, is for them to think about, for the teachers to think about whether the students are using the learning assistants, okay, in an abusive or in a misused manner. Okay, so for example, asking off the track or unfocused kind of questions, or things which are not related to the learning intention of the lesson. So that is one aspect that I thought it will be important for us to take note of. So if you use learning assistant with data assistant, that would be quite a powerful combination. Okay, so in this way, learning assistant is a student-facing tool, whereas data assistant is a teacher-facing tool. And if you are able to use both, all right, synergistically, the the learning outcome or the learning process will be enhanced, okay, because you are able to allow students, all right, to be highly motivated because of the learning assistance, where they can have fun interacting with the learning assistant, but on the other hand, you can also monitor the students' progress. The second example, so in this case, we are giving students agency with guidance, and all the students are included in this process, but with pedagogical discretion, because we are the ones who are basically putting in the prompt in the back end and deciding what kind of interaction, what kind of board questions should be deployed, when the students are interacting with the learning assistant. Okay, the next one is assessment for learning. So I want to actually maybe talk about thinking about short answer feedback system for formative assessment. Okay, so at the end of the day, how should we position short answer feedback system? It is not meant for summative purposes, actually, because when we use AI, we need to ask ourselves, it is actually a learning tool for students. And therefore, the focus of short answer feedback system should be for formative assessment. We need to ask ourselves, what do we want the students to learn when we are giving them a piece of work where the short answer feedback system is able to give them just-in-time feedback? Not putting in the examination marking scheme, but more importantly is what kind of success criteria or learning intention should be the crux or the center pillar of your feedback to the students, whether you are using suggested answer or rubric. Okay, so that is the first point. If we are thinking about using short answer feedback system as a kind of summative tool, then perhaps this is not the right platform, because I think going back to what Angeline has shared, it's probabilistic, it can hallucinate. So we cannot use AI at this point in time for those purposes, because those are for high stake assessment. And when we use AI for feedback, for assessment purposes, it should be for the growth of the students at that juncture. All right. Okay. So learning as a journey rather than learning as a summative, and knowing your students after you have deployed the short answer assistance, because it will give you a good idea about where the student is. Therefore, we can actually think about the next lesson, how we can actually tweak our subsequent lesson based on the data that you have gathered from the short answer feedback system. So even more powerfully, if you have used free response questions or ITT, you will be able to deploy data assistant once again, just like how you use data assistant in example 1, for you to scrub the data of the students learning at that point in time. So that basically leads me to the third example. Okay. Okay, hang on. Okay, so my third example is the use of ITT as a form of metacognitive tool. So a lot of times we want to see if the students have learned. Okay, and sometimes it is difficult to get students to tell you, especially in the classroom analog situation. Only a few students tend to just respond. And how do we actually allow all the students to respond to you? So once again, ITT with data assistance will give you the insight. When after all the students have keyed in their responses in ITT, data assistant can be applied for you to have a good idea about your students' response after a particular lesson, to see if they have learned, or if they have not learned, what would be some of the learning gaps that you can plug in subsequent to that. So that is the part where the teacher is always in the loop, is always over the loop, and the teacher is always there somewhere. The teacher is always able to monitor. The teacher is always able to use the set of data that AI is able to help you, okay, collate and move on, all right, in a very, very positive manner, so that you are able to think about your next lesson, plan for your next lesson, okay, constructively, and knowing the right direction to move towards. Okay, so I hope I have given you some examples, some anecdotal examples, okay, using those three case studies. All right, so knowing what to ask and knowing what data you need becomes quite crucial when you are using ITT with data assistance, for example. Okay, so I think we want to also address some of the issues that teachers are concerned with when it comes to possible plagiarism or academic integrity, all right, and therefore having some impact on assessment design. Okay, so I think students need to know what and how to prompt gen AI before potential plagiarism and other ethical issues can arise. Just to share an example. So when Learning Assistant was first launched in March, I actually used it with my students. And interestingly, the students were quite frustrated when the Learning Assistant threw questions back at them, because when I asked them, why are you so frustrated? They told me that, oh, when I use ChatGPT, I usually get my answers, all right, by cutting and pasting the question into ChatGPT within just a few trials. So when the learning assistant doesn't address their question directly, giving them direct answers, they find it very, very disturbing and find it very, very frustrating. So it tells us that we need to help the students move beyond asking this kind of baseline question, because they need to ask questions at the right level so that AI can help them. And this is one way to help students to, or rather to prevent students from being de-skilled. Okay, we want to teach them to ask higher order thinking questions, but it goes back to also the kind of questions we ask. Are we asking them too simple, the kind of questions? Okay, I also want to add on one point. I think for now, we are pretty safe still, because at the end of the day, the mainstream schools are still sitting for pen and paper examination. But AI help us, all right, not so much in preparing them, or rather, we don't need to worry so much about AI helping them to cheat. But at this point in time, we should think about AI in a more positive light. So let's think about a few things that we consider as we are using AI. Are we going beyond the what, who, when, all right, kind of questions? Are we giving them tasks which is of a higher order questions, which AI might not be able to give them answers so easily, so directly? Our task too much of a factual recall or regurgitation, and not enough of authentic real-world applications, or even to one CC kind of scenario-based task. Okay, and tasks that especially allow students to use Gen AI, I think we should encourage it and not stay away from it. So, for example, since we know that students are actually using AI on their own, all right, doing some of their homework, why don't we design a task that is of a higher level, higher order, and when we ask them to use AI to either help them to critique, to come up with possible solutions, or even generate images, all right, that can perhaps best encapsulate their learning, rather than avoiding AI or thinking that it is always the use of AI for cheating or plagiarism purposes. So we need to rethink, or perhaps start to have conversations with our colleagues about how we can think about the use of AI, okay, and not shy away from it. All right, so I thought at this juncture, okay, since AI in assessment is something that teachers should be thinking about, just to share that courtesy of our ETD colleagues, all right, next year, at e-pedagogy conversation package will come our way. All right, so I think teachers, we can look forward to it and perhaps seek guidance and advice from this piece of document that our ETD colleague has kindly, all right, in the process of producing. Okay, so last but not least, I just want to share some of the possible PDs that ASD has also. So I think all of you belong to one of the subject chapters, okay? And some of the past events are listed here, just examples. I think more importantly is for you to seek out some of these PD provision, especially NLCs, where you have prolonged conversation with other school colleagues, as well as master teachers, to continue this conversation about the rightful and appropriate use of AI in your classroom. So I urge you to watch out and to look out for the chapter PD that the various subject chapter will be sending out or have been sending out to you. All right. So with that, I just want to end off. If we can all come together to build up the set of practitioner knowledge about the use of AI, because right now it is considered as new knowledge. Subsequently, we as a system can move ahead when we codify and we're able to share this set of public knowledge with the rest of teachers. Okay, with that, thank you very much.